It's almost as if electric utopia is just a pipe dream and car makers have finally started waking up. Either that or they just got sick of playing the government's flute. Who knows? Maybe their knees just gave out because the market, people like you and me who actually buy new cars, we are still overwhelmingly happy with some form of internal combustion, perhaps occasionally with a battery attached. Who knew? I'm John Cadogan from autoexpert.com.au. New cars cheap, but Australia only. Website. Card. Having been a journo since dinosaurs roamed, free range, one thing I know is that stories typically blip in the news domain and then they sink without a trace. Like, who really cares if those virtue-signalling twats at Volvo had a somewhat masturbatory fantasy to sell electric-only cars by 2030, followed by a somewhat more recent epiphany, which I know must have seemed more like a corporate brain aneurysm last September, during which they decided that the all-electric public promise they had made previously was totally unsustainable. According to elite Volvo bullshitters just a few months back, it is clear that the transition to electrification will not be linear and customers and markets are moving at different speeds. Thank God that this speed hump can be laid neatly at the feet of the non-linearity of transition and the complex delta V of customers and markets, which must be so hard to keep up with. Even if that's your only fucking job. Thank God it's that, and not simply them failing to read the room globally. That was September the 5th of 2024, if memory serves, sort of a blip in the domain of news. By September the 6th, of course, that story was, in the manner of all news, buried deep in the Marianas Trench, because, a Palace insider had leaked exclusive pictures of demented King Chilla's latest hemorrhoid, or New South Wales Police Commissioner Karen Webb just fronted a press conference with a bottle of gin in one hand, calling for help because suddenly it seems homicide victims just stopped talking to police. Imagine that. But wouldn't it be kind of interesting if a whole bunch of proper car makers, and not just pimples on the car industry's buttocks like Volvo, but real car makers with actual clout, decided to stop pandering to various governmental and green twat lobby groups with their net zero fantasies and started waking up to actual consumer demand? This is actually happening right now. The Manscaped Beard and Balls Bundle is a sensational grooming solution for your face and below the waist. Meet the Beard Hedger and the Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra. The Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra is a powerhouse with two interchangeable skin-safe blade heads. You get the precision of a trimmer plus a super smooth foil shaver, and changing them over really is that simple. It's modular and brilliant. The trimmer blade features improved teeth that are tough on hair, but gentle on skin. It comes with 3 different combs, catering from everything from a pretty high and tight 1.4mm to a far more relaxed, but still under control, 12mm. And the result from the foil blade is nothing short of super smooth. The twins, and everyone associated with them, frankly, are going to marvel at their newfound effortless gliding capability. There's a USB-C port for recharging, but the unit is also wireless compatible, so no more bird's nest of charging cords to wrestle with. There's a dual-colour LED spotlight and a travel lock to prevent in-bag activation. Moving upstairs now, the Beard Hedger will stop your beard from looking like an unfortunate artefact of you being away a little too long on holiday. Titanium-coated stainless steel T-blade, fully indexable with 20 different length options. Any beard from action hero to the full Ned Kelly is easily doable. but it's virtually impossible to look prehistoric. Both units are waterproof, so you can go for it in the shower or at the sink, and that makes cleanup super easy. And they deliver up to 60 minutes of runtime each, which is quite a lot of grooming. Looking good does not have to be a time-consuming ordeal. You just need the right tools. So bundle up and save. Go to manscaped.com/autoexpert now. You'll get 20% off plus free international shipping with promo code AEJC at checkout. That's free shipping plus 20% off with promo code AEJC at manscaped.com/autoexpert. The Manscaped Beard and Balls Bundle is the ultimate dynamic duo of hair traffic control. About the same time as Volvo was having to come to terms with regaining consciousness and orienting itself to objective reality, which often limits one's options significantly now that I think about it, Toyota cut its stated target of 1.5 million EVs for 2026 to just 1 million. 33% of their ambitious target just gone, kind of just like that. Stroke of a pen, dude. It really is that easy up in the boardroom. And for the record, 500,000 EVs magically disappeared somewhere could hypothetically form a conga line stretching from something like Sydney to Mount Isa. Toyota also recently postponed the start of EV production in the USA by 6 months, moving back to a sort of mid-2026 timeline, citing pesky design revisions and the crap state of US EV sales. They were also quite keen to tell anyone who cared to listen that their EV production numbers are really just, quote, investor benchmarks rather than, actual production targets, whatever the fuck distinction that actually represents. Either that or they're just playing for time to drop those benchmarks even further. Ford, which has at best a loose relationship with reality, recently scrapped plans for its new large electric SUV, the Ford Expiration. That's such a catchy name, but stillborn, tragically. This is a $1.9 billion problem. Balance sheet entry, whatever. An accountant would probably call it a write-off and try to tell you that it's actually good news. Ford just seemingly woke up one day in August last year after blowing $1.9 billion in investors' funds on the Expiration, and they decided the big electric shitter just couldn't turn a profit. Just like that. They took the pro-choice option after that. The successor to the F-150 Lightning has also been placed in the phantom zone. It was supposed to lob this year, but now, officially, it's going to happen in 2027. That's probably just some kind of investor benchmark, I suppose. The bottom line is that Hank and Johnny just don't sound the same in a freaking electric pickup. If you are off to gig some frogs with Ellie Mae or otherwise keep it redneck, dude, it's kind of a breach of the good old boy code of ethics if your truck does not throb. Ford boss Jim Farley said the company's decision to make fewer EVs and more hybrids, quote, gives our customers maximum choice and plays to our strengths. PR operatives are such elite bullshitters. A brilliantly positive but also kind of meaningless statement. In September last year, he also thought it was a grand idea to open his gob and word vomit as follows. As a lifelong petrol head, I was surprised as anyone when I fell in love with electric vehicles. It wasn't government policies or political beliefs that sparked this late career romance with electric vehicles. It's because I drive one, my Ford F-150 Lightning Platinum. Back out here, outside the bubble in objective reality, you really don't deserve any kind of bonus points for choosing a Ford when you're the CEO of Ford. Being in love with Fords is kind of in your job description in that case, and it's right up the top, dude. It's in your contract. So I think this is less about actual love and more about simple public masturbation, which is always undignified, I would argue. So Jim is in love with the pickup America doesn't actually want, but after ditching petrol for the dive bar beauty queen of electric pickups, he more recently told her that it was over because he'd lately fallen in love with hybrids now because they, quote, make a real difference in CO2 reduction. Like that makes any kind of objective sense. Anyone could be the CEO of Ford, dude. It's the easiest job ever. A feedback effect of all of this, in particular the new hybrid fleeing by Mr. Farley, is of course the upcoming Ford Ranger plug-in hybrid ute for Australia, which is ridiculously outclassed by the two competing plug-in hybrid utes from BYD and GWM. So I don't see this as an example of, quote, playing to our strengths, unless, of course, one of those strengths is losing. The Germans are doing this too, backpedaling furiously. In July, those duplicitous Teutons at Porsche scaled back their bullshit ambition to have 80% of their Stuttgart shitters electrified by 2030. The pesky market was again to blame on this one. See, it's never the car maker fucking up, is it? It's always the market being wrong, not following simple instructions to buy this car or that one. Consumers just not transitioning as fast as corporate tree huggers and net zero fetishists in politics would like. Just this month, senior Porsche bullshitters announced that the company would invest 800 million euros in combustion engine and plug-in hybrid R&D and cut 1,900 jobs, if you don't mind. What a perverse way to inform the public just how much of a screaming success the mad Taycan experiment has actually been. Back across the Atlantic, in the land of free speech and the home of the Second Amendment, big fan, newly ruled by His Royal Highness Trumpty Dumpty II and his court jester, right-wing electric Jesus, GM has slashed its EV production target last year by roughly 25%. This is before His Orange Highness ascended to the throne, so most likely more slashing is well and truly in the wings. GM postponed its electric pickup production line opening in Michigan by 6 months, currently mid-2026, but it's really looking like an under-the-bus proposition in the medium to long term, and it's also fire-sailing its stake in the $2.6 billion Michigan battery plant to LG Energy Solution. It was really just a warm-up for the big LG Energy Solution bonfire at Moss Landing in California earlier this year. You could see that one from freaking space, dude. So I'm sure it's going to be a great relief to Michigan residents that the battery plant has been palmed off on the cheap into such preposterously safe hands. Now, in spite of all this, Mary Barra awoke randomly one day and said, as excited as we are about our portfolio, we are committed to growing responsibly and profitably in any demand environment. This is rock-solid proof, perhaps, that you can put multi-syllabic PR buzzwords together in just any order, dude, and it does not change the underlying meaning at all. Allow me to demonstrate. As excited as in any demand portfolio, any environment, we are committed responsibly to growing about our profitability. Which I suppose is the same thing, but it's kind of more like how Yoda would say it. For fuck's sake. 3 years earlier, Ms. Barra regained consciousness briefly one day and proudly announced GM's grand plan to be carbon neutral by 2040. Imagine that. Such a preposterously huge organisation. Carbon neutrality. I wonder how that's actually going. Well, currently, GM's carbon footprint is 350 million tonnes of CO2 equivalent annually. That's about 3/4 of Australia's total carbon footprint, by the way. So There's still a fair bit of work to do on that one, I'd say. Apologising for not achieving that, of course, will not be Ms. Barra's problem, most likely. Long before that deadline, she will no doubt have yanked the golden ripcord and landed safely in her bank balance. And rightly so, after doing such an ace job managing expectations and maximising stakeholder engagement, etc. And finally, three-prong. Where would any good corporate arse holier than thou report be without including the company whose EQE shitbox spontaneously combusted in such a newsworthy way last August in a South Korean apartment complex in downtown Cheongdong? 880 cars were damaged, about 140 of those were completely destroyed, 23 people were hospitalised, and 1,600 households were properly upended. Just one vehicle was all it took. Well done, three-prong. Love your work, dudes, says nobody in South Korea in all of 2025. I'm not going to say this was all because three-prong went with the cheapest and nastiest battery supplier, using the worst chemistry with corners cut at every turn, heaven forbid. Like, dude, where is the evidence for that? They're engineered like no other car, thankfully. EQ sales in South Korea collapsed, henceforth knocked me down with a friggin' feather, and the public outcry forced the normally quite sleepy South Korean government to stop fondling its testicles randomly and actually act. And act they did, dude. There are now EV fire safety inspections and charging restrictions in place, as well as they have these tiny fire trucks now, like K-cars, from a little-known supplier in Lilliput, probably, so they can actually respond the next time this kind of thing happens in an otherwise inaccessible public car park. Who could have imagined that or planned for it ahead of time? Like, dude, it's hardly as if anyone on YouTube has been calling for countermeasures such as this for frickin' years now, is it? Three-prong is characteristically sociopathic about all of this inconvenience in Southeast Asia. They tried to express some sympathy, of course, but I could tell that they had to get the intern to ask ChatGPT how a non-sociopathic organisation might act in these circumstances. Unfortunately, three-prong's grand fantasies to be all EV by 2030 have taken quite the hit. The company now says it's going to be manufacturing cars with, quote, electrified combustion engines well into the 2030s. Electrified ones, combustion engines. Awesome. Bullshit production still ticking over at roughly 110% at three-prong, pretty clearly. Like, those fuckers can't even say hybrid when there's a chance to call them electrified combustion engines in a public statement aimed at, ambient stupidity. Apart from anything else, it's literally untrue, right? Ontologically untrue. In a hybrid, the combustion engine is not electrified. It exists in conjunction with an electric powertrain. But why let the truth get in the way if it sounds kind of snappy to scientifically illiterate people in the public? Plus, they've just boned the development of their ambitious big shitter EV platform. I don't think they call it that. Probably because A, EV sales fell 23% for three-prong in 2024, and B, everyone in Southeast Asia hates them now. For roughly 8 years now, carmakers have existed in this nightmare realm where lefty woke agendas have been more vital than just about anything else, such as, profit, and certainly more vital than figuring out what customers actually want. This is a corporate brain virus. Carmakers, politicians, law enforcement, bureaucracies, they've all been infected because they've all forgotten that they're the tail, and we, the consumer, the customer, the voter, whatever, actually calls the shots. Like, we're the dog, dude. We are. We tell the tail what flight level at which it may cruise and what frequency it may wag, if frickin' at all. And we really don't like being told what to do by such specialist assholes. I'm sick of car makers telling me what I want. Just like I'm sick of politicians pretending that they're our parents and telling us we've all been very, very naughty or that we need to be protected from people who might tell us nasty things. Like, fuck right off on that, dude. I'm far too old and grumpy to be told by a dipshit politician or a self-aggrandizing buzzword-rich car maker what to say, what to think, or that my next car will be electric. Like, I really want one. I just don't realise it yet. Please. Especially when we all know that those same politicians and car makers are just having it off out the back quietly, kind of like a scene from the least marketable pornographic movie ever. If an electric car is right for you, then yay, dude, I'm happy for you. Knock yourself out. But it's not right for me, and I really don't think I'm alone. In fact, the way the market is moving, we're clearly pretty close to the point where people who identify as EV crusaders, like the EV cult, enthusiasts, evangelists, whatever, they already have their EVs. They're stocked up. That bit of the market is pretty close to saturation, and it was easy to sell those shitboxes to them. It's much harder to sell EVs to normal people like median car buyers who don't particularly need to wage war on combustion or need an EV to complete their social virtue ensemble. Normal car buyers just want the best new car for their particular needs. And EVs are such a hard sell to ordinary car buyers because they're so much more expensive, they depreciate harder, they're more expensive to insure and repair, they don't have the range for long trips, and the charging infrastructure sucks a golf ball through 100 metres of Nilex garden hose more enthusiastically than ex-wife number 3. Which is a neat trick, sure, but she had been training for quite some time, to be fair, and the hose never really stood a chance. This EV market correction is like when you're having the best dream ever on the sofa on some random Saturday arvo. You've been there, you've done that, right? You're in the hot tub with the cheerleaders' mommies and the competition is nearly over. It's down to the wire, dude. You are umpiring the grand final of the World Breath-Holding Championships. You look up on the wall. Gold medal o'clock is just seconds away and the crowd goes wild. And then you wake up just like that and you don't even know who won. What a chip. The footy's over. The dog has drunk your last beer, bastard, and the lawn still needs mowing. It's so predictable. Car makers are having rude awakenings just like that all over the world.